It's a great time to be an Atari fan. A few months back, I reviewed the Atari 2600 Plus, and now another new product has been released. And it's no surprise that Atari and Retro Games Limited have partnered to release a mini version of the first Atari computers. Let's check out the newly released the 400 Mini. Welcome back to Evan's Retro Lane. When people think of Atari, they immediately think of the iconic 2600 gaming console. The console was so popular that by the late 70s and early 80s, you would find it in many homes around the world. Atari were known for creating gaming systems, but they were also working to create their own personal computer line behind the scenes to compete with the already successful companies like Commodore and Apple. So in November 1979, Atari released their 400 and 800 computers. The 800 was their premium product, featuring a typewriter-style keyboard, dedicated monitor output, and 2 cartridge ports, while the 400 was the low-end product with a membrane keyboard, RF output, and 1 cartridge port. The supplied RAM varied over time, but can be upgraded to 48 kilobytes on each system. If you're familiar with all the mini consoles, or in this case mini computers, Retro Games Limited have brought us some fantastic products over the years. I've been collecting every Retro Games Limited product and am very familiar with their approach and passion for this genre. I just think that it's great that a company is reintroducing the world to retro computing through these modern products. I never had an Atari computer. I grew up with Commodore and then IBM. Over the years, I've read many articles about how great the Atari computers were, and I'm curious to check it out. The 400 Mini was released on the 28th of March 2024. I pre-ordered it the moment it was announced. It retailed for $189.95 Australian dollars, and at launch was only available from one retailer in Australia. Now, let's see what the 400 Mini is all about. Let's look at the technical specifications first. This is a 50% replica of the original 400 computer. This design is so very 70s, it looks like a spaceship, doesn't it? Here it is with the original. It has 4 front-facing USB ports for multiplayer games, compatible with most good USB controllers, joysticks, and keyboards. At the back, a 5th USB port, which I'll use to plug in my USB stick, a HDMI output, and a USB-C power input. It also comes with a reimagined, original-looking CX40 joystick called the CX Stick. Not with 1 button, but 8. The firmware will allow you to play games from a USB drive that are compatible with the 400, 800, XL, XE, and 5200. But the Mini, like all other Retro Games products, comes with officially licensed built-in games. 25 of them have been included. In order of age, from 1979, Basketball, from 1981, Asteroids, Centipede, Missile Command, from 1982, Miner 2049er. From 1983, Berserk. Bristles. Capture the Flag. Encounter. Flip and Flop. Mule. O'Reilly's Mine. Wavy Navy. From 1984, Hover Bother. Lee, otherwise known as Bruce Lee. Millipede. The 7 Cities of Gold. From 1985, Boulder Dash. Electroglide. From 1987, Battlezone. Henry's House. Star Raiders 2. From 1988, Airball. Crystal Castles. And from 2007, Yoomp. Some pretty awesome titles there, and remember we can always add games to this as well using our USB storage device. It's time to unpack the box. Here it is. It's amazing just how small the box is. Everything must be really well packed. My first impression of the box art is that it looks great. Retro games are known for keeping to the original box design of the product they release. So when I looked up what the original 400 box looked like, it was very close to the original. Let's take it out of the plastic wrapping. On the top of the box, we have images of all the computer systems and consoles this product can emulate. Seeing it like this really does help visualize the capabilities packed into this small product. On the left side, we see all the software features. As I mentioned, it can emulate a series of 8-bit Atari computers and consoles related to the 400 and 800. We can save and resume games, rewind games up to 30 seconds, perfect for these difficult old school games, multiple scaling options and CRT filter, 12 frames to fill the screen if you wish, 720p display at 50 or 60 Hz. I've mentioned this topic previously with the Atari 2600 Plus. Be mindful of what you set this and ensure that you run compatible games for either 50 Hz, which is PAL, or 60 Hz, which is NTSC. Sometimes the games will work regardless, but they may run too fast or too slow or even glitchy. And of course, USB support for controllers, keyboards, storage devices, firmware updates, and so on. And on the back, we see a selection of included games, and again the fact that we can load our own via USB. And the included, the CX Stick. Retro Games Limited name all their products beginning with the, which is really funny. On the right side, we see a description of the contents. The 400 Mini, the CX Stick, and they state that it is USB, not the traditional DB9 connector, a HDMI and USB-C cable, a quick start guide. All the included games are listed here in case you were wondering if you saw this in the store. And as with many products these days, an AC adapter is not included, assuming you already have a way of providing power. Time to open the box. I'm always impressed every time I open one of these new products. I give the packaging full marks. Inside we see the cute 50% replica of the Atari 400 and the CX Stick. I love how they include a plastic dust cover. It's great to keep for when this device isn't being used. Let's take it out of the box and have a look. This looks amazing. The modeling on all of these mini products is just perfection. I'm someone who is big on attention to detail, and they've nailed this. Now I know some people might be asking, does the keyboard actually work? Let's be real. This is way too small to be used as a fully functioning keyboard. Imagine how frustrating it would be. You never know, retro games might bring out a full-size Atari computer in the future. For now, USB keyboards are also supported. Simply plug one in if you need it. What about the cartridge chamber? Does it actually open? No, it doesn't. It's purely there for looks along with the keyboard. And we would be using a USB drive to load games anyway. They could have made this open to reveal a USB port. That would have been cool. On the sides of the unit, we have nothing at all. The original had some ports, but they aren't required on this. Underneath, we have the product sticker. I have serial number 7223. I love looking at these serial numbers to try and guess how many were made. If you have one, what number did you get? Next in the box, we have the quick start guide. Don't expect too much from this. It pretty much only has a few pages explaining how to connect this up. Retro Games Limited do a fantastic job at documenting the software for all of their products. Check out their website for a full user manual. It runs through the entire system in great detail. What else have we got? Let's check it out. The CX Stick. So this CX40 joystick has been recreated to give the appearance of the old joystick. However, there are some innovations built into this one. Straight away, I can see the usual button here on the top left. But there are 7 more buttons hidden on this. 2 of them are on the back. These are important for driving the menu system. Another button is on the corner edge. And the remaining 4 buttons are around the circular part of the joystick here. Top, down, left and right. This can also be switched to a left-handed joystick by pressing Menu, the shoulder button, and the left ring buttons simultaneously. To switch back, press the right ring button instead. In the final box, we have our HDMI and USB-C cable. These are also in the same color as the 400 Mini, which is cool. Now that everything is out, let's connect it all up. Starting up the system, we get this amazing splash screen similar to that seen on the original Atari console, but with that retro games touch. The first setup screen is for us to select our preferred language. Let's select English. The second setup screen is for us to select our preferred refresh rate. I did mention this before, and if you didn't grow up in the 80s and 90s, you probably would pick 60Hz assuming that that's the better choice. It really depends on whether your television standard was PAL or NTSC. PAL is 50Hz and NTSC is 60Hz. Some games may need a particular system to run. Retro games traditionally tailor the included games to be region specific. As seen in this Australian release, I would assume that this would have PAL versions of the games included, whereas in the US you may have NTSC versions included. Let's choose 50Hz. The system performs a quick change to test whether we can see it or not, and we do. So I'll accept it and we're done. We're then presented with this beautiful carousel with all of the preloaded games available to choose. But before we do any of that, let's continue setting this up. Press the menu button on the back of the CX stick. We then get a menu on the screen with different settings. Here we can switch between 4:3 or pixel perfect, which I prefer especially to get a real smooth scrolling effect. We can also activate scan lines to make this look like we're using a CRT television. And we can also choose a frame to display around the area of the screen that isn't used by the emulator. There's a nice selection here, but I'm going to leave this off. Going down the menu, we can enter the language setting, which is exactly what we saw initially when we first booted up the Mini. Then we have the advanced options. System options provides the ability to configure the volume of the menu music. System information provides you with the current firmware build information. This is where you update the firmware as well, provided it is in the root of the plugged-in USB stick. To shut down the device, the safe option is here. If you want to read the legal notices, they're all here as well. And for whatever reason you want to reset the Mini back to an out-of-the-box experience, a factory reset option is available here as well. Currently, this is the only way to access the 50Hz or 60Hz option, and by doing a reset, you will lose any save states against the included games. Back at the carousel, all the included games are featured here with their box art and a brief description. You also get additional information, such as whether the game is for 1 or 2 players, as well as how many save slots you've used per game. If you look at the grey bar at the bottom of the screen, this provides you with information about which buttons are for what. Pushing up will display the help screen for the game we currently have selected. This provides the mapping information for the game against the CX stick. Pulling down gives you the access to 4 save slots which look like Atari cartridges. Here you can save a game state, lock it in so you don't overwrite it, and restore a game state. Perfect for all those difficult 8-bit games. Pressing the left button on the ring gives you the ability to rate each of these games. Pressing the right button on the ring sorts the games by author, genre, year, publisher, favorite, based on your ratings, and back to title. Now for the fun part, let's play a game and see how well the advanced features work. A game I remember from when I was in primary school is Boulder Dash. I love revisiting this game every now and then. Starting the game up, it looks pretty good. I don't see any screen tearing or any glitching. Having a play, the emulation seems pretty good. If I didn't know better, I'd think I was using an original 400. Alright, let's say we make a mistake by letting a boulder crush us. Oops. Let's activate the rewind feature by pressing the home button and pushing left on the CX stick. A menu appears and we can rewind our gameplay. Remember, there is a 30-second limit. When we find a location to resume from, press fire. We get a 3-second countdown, and there we go. It never happened. Now, if we want to save the state of a game to continue tomorrow, press the menu button. This returns us to the carousel. You can see our game in the suspended state in the top right corner. Simply pull down on the CX stick, find a spare slot, and insert it. To restore a saved game, simply select it and press fire. There we go. Given this Mini doesn't have a working keyboard, you can plug one into the USB port, or press both the home and menu buttons together, and you get this on-screen virtual keyboard. This is very useful. Back in the day, we had no choice. Joysticks are what we used because they were designed to replicate the experience in arcades. Using them after a while can get annoying and even cause cramping. The beauty of these mini consoles by Retro Games is that they try to support compatible USB joysticks and gamepads. They've even released the gamepad, which came out as part of the A500 Mini back in 2022. I'll mention that the joystick with micro switches is also compatible. Let's say we don't have any of those, what else can we use? I picked up this generic USB Super Nintendo clone gamepad many years ago for $10, and it works really well with this Mini. You just have to figure out the mappings of the buttons. Alright, now it's time to load our own games from USB. I'll insert my USB stick formatted to FAT32 into the back port so it's not in the way of any of the controllers. On the carousel, a new title appears called Media Access. Navigate to this and press fire. Here we get a media browser with all the content I copied across to the USB stick. I have a mix of games in various formats. The user guide from the Retro Games website has a complete list of all the supported file extensions. I did see they listed ATX files, but for whatever reason they don't show up in the media browser, so that is a problem. Let's play a cartridge game. What about Donkey Kong? Select it by pressing fire, then press the home button to launch. The Mini will try to determine the correct system, but sometimes it won't get it right, and the game may not load. If that happens at the browser, simply press the menu button and enter the game settings. Here you can select the type of computer or console that the game works with. You can also make screen adjustments if required. The control type can also be selected and you can customize the mappings to the joystick or gamepad. This is great because you can map keys to buttons if you wish. Unfortunately, I also notice a lack of RAM options above the stock 128 kilobytes of the 130XE computer. This homebrew version of BombJack won't load. I'm hoping RAM options will be added to this just like the A500 Mini. What about multi-disc or multi-cassette games? I have some games in ATR format, but it's on 2 discs. In the media browser, simply select the first disc, then hover over the second and press the shoulder corner button. This creates a chain in the current media section. During gameplay, if you need to swap the disc, press the home button at the same time as the down button on the circle. Not so lucky trying that on the multi-cassette images. I'm hoping that will be introduced in a later firmware update. What if you want to get into some basic programming? When you first insert a USB stick, an ATR file is created in the root folder. This file by default has BASIC enabled. Let's try typing in some code. 10 print quote hello world end quote semicolon. Line 20 would be go to 10 and let's run that. I've created another ATR file containing the basic code for a few typing games from Compute Magazine. I remember typing these games up for the Commodore VIC-20 back in the day. For this file, I simply access the game settings and activate BASIC. Launching the disk brings us to the BASIC ready prompt. To load our game, we type load quote D1 colon goldrush.bas end quote, press enter. D1 represents the drive ID number and goldrush.bas is the file name. The game loads into memory. We can type list to see the program listing. There it is. Now we type run. And there we have it. Our basic game works. What do I think about the 400 Mini? Retro Games Limited continue to impress with an accurate recreation of an original Atari 8-bit computer. Being able to emulate programs and games across the series expands the library greatly. The included games are a good blend for those who want to experience the system, but aren't experienced in the catalogue of games. And on that, this is the first time I've experienced an Atari computer, and I can clearly see that these computers were way ahead of their time. There are some pretty enjoyable games. Most of them I've played on other platforms like the Commodore 64. I wish that there were more titles available for the Atari computers though. Most of the games seem to be the typical titles that you find on all the other systems. Had Atari's marketing been a little better back in the day, these computers could have been more mainstream and had more game development as a result. But still, it doesn't mean we can't enjoy it now. There are some pretty impressive demos and games created in recent years. As for the price, I paid $189.95 Australian dollars for the 400 Mini. I do think these products are starting to get a little expensive, but that could be a sign of the times. I do think it's a well-built product. Retro Games have proven they're committed to improving their products, so expect firmware updates to sort out the issues we came across today. Overall, I recommend the product if you're an Atari fan, or you just want to experience it for the first time like me. Let me know, did you buy the 400 Mini as well? How do you find it? Or maybe this video has convinced you to go buy one. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching this episode. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the review. And why not subscribe to the channel for new episodes? And I'll see you next time.